is going to show you how to account for your transportation expenses. And so, for the purposes of the project, I am going to direct you to get a new car. And the reason for that is simple, that it makes forecasting the expenses for maintenance much easier, right? On an older car with varied mileage and different makes and models have different problems at different, you know, time intervals and are more or less expensive to fix. It just makes it very difficult to start forecasting that. And so we're going to direct you to get a new car for the purposes of your budget. And obviously, if you want to get one that's a used car, that can lower some of your monthly payment costs significantly. And you may not have to have so much maintenance depending on the type of vehicle that you select and so on. And so the first step is to get yourself a car. And which website you get it from doesn't really matter to me. It can be from cars.com or it can be from, really any website. It doesn't much matter. And so we'll start off with cars.com. And I'm going to go and browse some of these new models. And let's say I want to get a pickup truck. I'd really love a pickup truck. And so we'll find ourselves a car that makes sense for us and our budget and what we like and our dislikes. And, I really have to have me this Ram 1500. And so you'll want to find a car that has a price, right? Some of those cars on the previous page didn't have a price. You may have to check some other websites and something in order to get the price. And so I'm going to price it with the options I like because there's big differences between vehicles and in terms of what they come with, right? And so let's say I'll stick with one of the lower end models. And let's say it comes at a cost of, I don't know, I'll just pick one. Comes at a cost of $31,495. And so you can go in and get some of the information about this car, but again, remember, if you put in your information, then someone will call you. Someone will try to sell you a vehicle. They are very persistent about trying to sell cars, and so it doesn't matter which one I select. So I select one, and I'll remember I'm going to need to print that page that has the vehicle information on it, in particular, the cost of the vehicle. And so assume that you probably will be able to negotiate something that's a little bit better than these prices, but let's go with the MSRP in terms of the price, right? Let's say for whatever reason, maybe they're not giving out a lot of incentives on the particular car you want. And so this car is $27,340. Up, we're going to go to get the car calculator, the auto loan calculator, and the one from cars.com is a pretty good one. We're going to put in the cost of the vehicle, which was $27,340. We're not going to put any number as a down payment. We don't have a vehicle necessarily to trade in, and so to keep things nice and easy to understand without having to explain a lot, we'll just put 0 for the down payment. We'll put 0 for a trade-in value. In reality, you may have those things, and they can reduce the overall calculation, but for now, we're just going to say 0. There is a 6% sales tax in the state of Florida. Some localities charge an additional 1 cent sales tax, so if you live in one of those localities like Dade County, Dade County does charge an additional 1% sales tax. The interest rate, based on the instructions, I tell you guys to use a interest rate of 4%. So we're going to change that from 3.6 to now 4%. Now, if I were to make the payments out over 36 months or 3 years, it would cost $855. And so I'm going to decide to increase the payments to 48 months, which would make the payments $654. And I may decide, I really need to go a little further. Let's go out to 5 years, and I'll finance this vehicle for 60 months, reducing my payment to $533. And so let's say that's the payment that I land on. I'll print this page. I'll go back to the overview, for the automobile, and I'll put in my amount $533.71. Next, we're going to need auto insurance. And so we're going to go back to the instructions.
You'll find that I have information that's old and struck through for Allstate and Geico. Geico is not quite as easy as it used to be. Allstate it will work. You just have to put some fictitious information. But I did find a new site called thezebra.com, and you can follow the link here to get to it. It allows you to input just some basic information about the car and your birth date in order to get a quote. And so I've already gone ahead and added in selected my car. You need to select the make and the model. And you can do so by selecting the make and the model. And then you'll click on compare quotes. And when you get there, on the left-hand side, there'll be the option to include your birth date. Now you do want to include your birth date as though you are the age when you would graduate. So if, for example, you're now say 17, or let's say you're 18, you're 18 today, and you're going to graduate and be 22 years old 4 years later, you're going to want to say that you are 22 years old today. And so we're going to take 2016 as our current year and subtract 22, and we'll get to 1994. So we're going to want to say that you're born in 1994 in order for us to get an accurate quote. And the reason for that is because your car insurance varies with your age. So the older you are, the less expensive your insurance becomes, until a point, right, at which point you're very old and you become more expensive to insure. But nonetheless, throughout your middle ages, you'll become less and less expensive to insure. They ask you a question about if you've been in an accident in the last 5 years, and if you have been in an accident or have received any tickets. In this current year, then 4 years from now, that will make a total of 5, and you would have to answer yes. I'm going to answer no because it makes it easy. It asks about your credit score. Hopefully you have good credit. Your marital status. You may be single 4 years from now when you complete college. That's all again your choices. It'll ask you whether you're male or female. If you're male, it tends to be a little more expensive than females. It's going to ask if you're currently insured. I'm going to say no because it'll start to ask me other questions. And in regards to home ownership, will you be owning your own home? Will you be owning a condo? Will you be a renter? And so, based on many positions of people who are just out of college, many of them will rent. We'll click on next to get to the next piece. You don't want to add any other drivers in the first part. You're going to select for miles driven this 10,000 to 15,000 amount. For primary use, you'll be to drive to work or school, but in our case, work. Do you currently own, lease, or finance? We're going to say that we're financing the vehicle. Does this vehicle have an anti-theft device? We'll say yes, that it does. And so, depending on whether you own the car outright, whether you lease it or you finance it, there's usually different types of insurance that are sometimes required by the state and sometimes required by whoever finances your auto loan. They may have certain types of coverage because they're going to want to make sure that that vehicle is protected in the event that something were to happen to it and were to become a total loss. They want to make sure that they'll be made whole because you're basically promising to pay whoever you borrow the money from for the car. So it's not technically your car until you pay it off. The types of insurance that are available, you'll notice here on the left side there's the state minimum, which is just the bare minimum that's required by state law, and that can be pretty inexpensive. Again, may depend on what the person who's financed your vehicle requires. There's the basic level of insurance, which starts to increase the price a little bit, but has better coverage. And you can see down here underneath what type of coverage is offered at each price point. There's better, and then there's best. And so With the idea in mind that this is a price that will decline over time, right? So initially you're going to pay a little bit more. 10 years later, hopefully your pricing will go down versus go up. Uh, Assuming you are not a risky driver that gets into accidents and gets speeding tickets and things of that nature, I'm going to require you guys, for the purposes of our project, to get better or best, particularly for the reason that you're financing the car, and most insurers are going to require a certain amount of coverage, and in particular for to make sure the vehicle is well protected. And so we're going to go with better or best. Clearly, better is a rate of insurance that it tends to be a little cheaper. These are naturally sorted by price, and so naturally the first one is Allied, which shows us 257. You see Esurance, it sends you to get a quote. Yeah, I've done it before. You do have to give away some information, like your driver's license number and those types of things, which they obviously look at into your driving record. And so I would avoid all that, having to give out any personal information, and just select Allied. You can click on this down arrow, and you can see that it's $257 per month. For the for what you need to include in your overall budget will be a screenshot of this page, right? The whole page, particularly this stuff here on the left-hand side. Don't just take a screenshot of this. Take a screenshot of the full page, right? Just all this website, all the whole page of the website. All right, I hope that helps you with your car insurance quote. Next up, we're going to get some numbers for maintenance for the vehicle, for fuel, and for repairs. And we'll visit Edmunds.com, which is a true cost to own. And here we're going to select the make of the vehicle. May need to refresh here. Been on this page once today. And we'll go down to the make. We'll select our model, the year, and the trim level. And click on go. And down and below, we'll see it'll pop up some of these numbers in terms of its true cost to own the vehicle. And this is over a period of 5 years. And so we're going to need to divide some of these numbers, right? And so we're talking about a 5-year period. So we're talking about a total of 60 months. So we're going to need to take our total amount and divide it by 60 in order to get a monthly amount, which in this case for fuel, they suggest on average we'd spend about $102.47 on fuel. And so that would be the number that we'll include in our budget, right? The 102.47. And so for this page, you're going to be printing this page. You can handwrite your math right on it. Do me that favor of actually handwriting right on it. Highlight the total amount, and you can feel free to do the figuring in wherever you have some blank space on the page. The next number that you're going to include in the budget is a combination of maintenance and repairs. And sometimes those things are done simultaneously. You go take your vehicle in for repairs, and they discuss with you potential maintenance that may need to be done at that time or very soon to that time. And so you may decide to get those things done at the same time. And so for that reason, we're going to include both numbers at the same time in our budget. And so we're going to take the numbers for maintenance, again, the 5-year total, and the repairs, the 5-year total. Because you'll notice early on in the ownership of the vehicle, the repairs are very minimal, if any, right? And so in this case, there's $0 for repairs, as most vehicles would be covered by the manufacturer's warranty within the first 2, potentially up to 3 years. And you notice that the costs for repairs climbs a little bit. So we're going to take these two numbers, the maintenance number for 5 years and the repairs number for 5 years, and add them together. And we get an amount of $54.24. We're going to divide that number so that we can get, that's a 5-year total. We divided it by 60 to get a monthly amount, which is $90.40. And again, you can do the math for it all right on paper with the assistance of a calculator. You can do it all right here. Please do me that favor of circling these two numbers and writing them down and showing me the math and how you got to your figure. I'd appreciate that. Don't just jump to the monthly figure right off, because I'm going to come behind you and do the math in order to check your numbers. And so that's the fuel, maintenance, and repairs section. The final section is for your driver's license. And so you're going to need to look up the fees for your particular state and figure out how long is it that you have the registration for. And in most cases, that's going to be every year. And you'll need to divide by 12 in order to come up with a monthly amount for the annual registration. Typically, there's a cost for initially registering the vehicle the very first time. And so, for you, registering that vehicle to you. And so there's a cost, I believe it may be somewhere around $225, $250 initially. And so you'll have an annual renewal of the license plate. And so you'll need to make sure that you divide that out across each month and include any other figures. Sometimes some states charge an additional tax based on the value of the vehicle or based on the weight of the vehicle. And so you're going to want to read the directions from each state to see what it is that they charge. Remember, I can't stress enough, go ahead and print out each of those pages, right? So in the this transportation section, you'll need the cost for financing. Remember that you're going to get the loan at a rate of 4% interest. Don't forget to include the 6% in sales tax that you'll need to pay. The next thing you'll include is the quote for car insurance from the Zebra, and you can take a screenshot and print that screenshot. And then you'll need information from Edmunds, the TCO, the true cost of ownership, or true cost to own, as they say. And those true cost numbers include fuel and repairs and maintenance. Repairs and maintenance are bundled together. All right, hopefully that answered some of your questions. Email me if you have others.